All right, next up we're going to add support for ledges. Shouldn't take long. Ledges are kind of weird. You can stand on them, but you can also jump through them from below. And you also want to ignore them if you happen to run into a ledge while you're in the land state, in case you have a low ledge for some reason. So we're going to take care of that situation first. So if we go to Object Zool Land, and we're going to add a collision event with object ledge. We don't have one of those yet. So let's do that. Add event. Collision with ledge. And what do we want to do? Well, we just want to exit. So just do that. Basically, we just want to ignore it. So that's what we're doing here. And then we also have to deal with ledges in Object Zool Air. So here's Object Zool Air. And we want to add a collision event. Well, maybe not a collision event, but yeah, we want to treat object solids and object ledges the same. And so we want both events to be the same, so, and then we'll change what's different. So I guess we look at object solid, Object Zool Air, and all of this stuff we want to copy, and then no, we have to do everything. So this and this we'll copy, and then we'll add an event for collision with ledge, and in that event handler we want to do the same thing, but with one minor change. At the start of the list of actions, we want to check to see, before we do any of this other stuff, we'll drag that up on top. We're testing the variable is we're going to say y previous, and then plus 18. It's kind of odd to have an equation there. We want to see if that is larger than or greater than other, which is the ledge dot y. If it's greater than that, that means we're below it and we're moving upwards. And if that's the case, then we just want to ignore it. So so we just do that same exit thing. So simple little add. To test this, we're going to have to add a ledge to the room though. So let's go to our room and see if we have a ledge to add. First of all, here's our room. We take a look at our platforms. There's a ledge there. So these will just be temporary changes. Let me zoom in a bit so I can see what I'm doing. Not sure how to move this around. But we want to put a ledge near the ground here. So I'm going to do that here. Put a ledge here. If I can drag that in. This is our instances layer. So yeah, there's a ledge there. You can barely see it because it's the background color. Let me put it in a different spot. I'll put it here so we can see it. Okay, and the reason I'm putting such a low ledge here is just so that we can collide with it while we're walking. Let's also put another ledge here, and I'll put it up a little higher. And what we want to do is we want to see if we can jump through it from the bottom but then land on it from the top. Hopefully that's not too high. Let's try this and see if our changes make sense. Alright, so there's our ledge. First thing we want to double check is that we can walk into it without a problem. Looks like we can. There's no interactions. But when we jump, the expectation is we land on it. So now we're on top of it. It seems to work, but we can walk through it. Now let's see if we can jump through it from the bottom and land on it. Yeah. So that's kind of weird how a ledge would work, but that's basically the behavior we want. Now in the game, if you're going to add this to the test level, what would you do graphically, I guess? You certainly don't want to see that line there. Let's leave the game and I'll show you what part of the tile set you would use. Here's our tile set. These big blocks of gelatin, or I don't know what they are, just big colored blocks. That's what I would use for the bottom part underneath the ledge. And then just put the ledge right up there on top, and so it'll look like he's standing on a big block of something. But it's kind of odd that you can jump through the bottom of it. But that's what I put into the room, and if you wanted to actually include ledges in, and we will later. Okay. All right, next we're going to start working on the wall object for Zool. So let's take a look and see what we have so far. Probably not a lot, but we'll see. So there's the... Notice how all these events are grayed out. That means Object Zool wall is inheriting from a parent class, probably Object Zool. And so we already have, some stuff there because of the inheritance relationship with the parent. But what we want to do is add a create event of our own. So even though there's one there that's grayed out, we're going to use this one instead. Try to slide this over a bit. I've yet to be able to figure out how to move things in this interface. It's very strange. So we're in the create event, and first thing we want to do is we want to set a variable. Now let's just execute some code. So it's here. You just put a big code block here, and then we can hide that. Give us some room. Okay, so what do we do in the create event? Well, first we want to set our state equal to object, or to z-state climb, and that's this one here. And then since we're climbing, we want to make sure that gravity shut off, so we're going to set gravity equal to 0. And just to be complete, we'll set gravity direction equal to 270, just to make sure we shut off gravity in that direction. Good place to start. And then we also want to set friction to 0 as well. So let's do that. Friction, we'll set that equal to 0. And then we also want to make sure we're not moving, so we'll set the speed equal to 0 as well. Now we're going to add a begin step event just to get us in the right state, I guess. So that's all we need to do in the create event. Now my question here, and I always have this question, is the parent class's create event being called as well? I'm never quite sure. If we look at Object Zool's create event, just for giggles, we see that in here sets this state to stand and then it changes to air. So my guess is that it's overriding the create event. It's not actually calling this code before it calls the create event in Object Zool wall. Because that would be weird. You'd be an Object Zool error Yeah, so I think it overrides it. So we just overrode the parent's create event. But now we're creating our own event, and this is the step, begin step event. And what we want to do is set the state. So we'll execute some more code. We'll set the state. What happened there? Oh, I got 2 blocks now. See if I can figure out this interface. Okay. We'll set state equal to zState cling. That'll be the default state. That way, if they let go of the keyboard or something weird happens, it's just going to sit there hanging on the wall. It's not going to animate. Now, if there's any keyboard events that override this later, then it'll change. We want to set the vertical speed to 0. So we say vSpeed equals 0. That'll be our default vertical speed. Now we're going to add a new event. Let's go back over somehow. It's the create event. So I guess I have to figure this out. I'm trying to figure out how to drag it. Don't know. Okay, so so we're adding keyboard up event. So we say keyboard up. This is odd. You call it keyboard down up event. Very strange. What do we want to do there? Well, we want to check to see if there's a wall in the direction we're facing. The way we do in check object, if you type in check object, that's what it used to be called. I think I keep looking for it, but here's create instance, destroy object, instance change. No check object anywhere. Okay, so so we'll go to execute code. And see if we can find out where we're typing here. And what we want to do is we say if, again, we're using place meeting a lot, but if place meeting, and then we're looking for X, we're looking at facing. I think this is relative, so we'd have to say X plus facing. Remember, facing is either +1 or -1. +1 if we're facing right, -1 if it's something else. And then for Y, we're going to say -4. Okay. So Y -4. I think that's what we want. And do that equation here. And then what are we looking for? We're looking for object wall. Now this is an object Zool wall. This is the actual wall. I made that mistake a few times. Really confuses things. Don't get those mixed up. It's awful trying to figure out why it's not working if you get those two mixed up. All right. All right, so what do we do if we have a wall in the direction we're facing and we've hit the up key? Well, we want to set our vertical speed to -4. So we say v speed because we want to move up. Remember, y is upside down, so. And is that relative? No, it's not. And then what else do we want to do? But we have to change our state. Now that we're moving, we say state equals z state climb. We're climbing now. Now we'll use that state for going up and down. And we end our block. And then we want to do something similar in key down, going the other way. So just copying that code, going back to wall, and we'll add a key down event. We'll execute some code there. However, what we'll do here is we'll set our vertical speed to +4 because we're going down. And then here we want to change this in the direction we're moving. So now I understand why they're adding and subtracting 4, because that's our speed. We want to make sure there's a wall there before we move there. And if we can, then we go ahead and let them move. All right, let's see what happens here when we hit the wall. I don't think everything's in place yet, so I'm not sure what it's going to do. So let's, but you can see when we hit the wall, we're not really doing anything yet. Nothing really happening. So let me go to our rooms, just so we don't forget that, and take out those ledges. To delete things. I think you have to select them and then hit delete. Really quite strange. I'm just taking out our ledges. And then going back then to objects of the wall. What else do we need to do to get this to work? Let's see. Another event we want to capture on objects of the wall is the space key. We want to be able to jump away from the wall. So just like it would use the space key to jump from the ground, we can also jump away from the wall. So this will be a it's a key press event, just like it is over in the land one, in the space, because we don't want it to repeat. So here, what we'll do in the space event is we'll just do a set variable, and we'll set h speed equal to this equation. We'll say negative facing, because we want to jump in the opposite direction we're facing, times 2. And that'll give us numbers between +2 and -2. And that's pretty much it. You also want to move up a little bit too. So if you have a series of assigned variables, you can just hit this plus sign and put another one there. We'll say v speed and we'll set that to -15. And then as soon as we do that, we want to change ourselves into object Zool air. So we'll do an instance change. So it's here, change instance. What are we changing into? We can choose from the list. So we just let go of the wall. We're going to choose air. So now we ask ourselves, what do we do when objects of the wall collides with something solid? So we're going to add a collision event. Collision with solid. What do we do in that case? Well, What we'll do is we'll do a set. We'll set the variable x to x previous, which is kind of odd because I'm not sure why yet. So we're just saying the value of x we'll set to x previous. So we're moving it back to its previous position. But why would we do an x? That doesn't make sense. Because you're moving up and down, you're climbing on the wall. So I guess, yeah, I don't know. Okay, and we'll also do the same thing with y. So we're moving back to our original position before we collided with the solid thing. Okay, so this makes more sense, that you're just moving back to the previous location. X is probably not going to change because you're probably not going to be moving horizontally while you're climbing up the wall. Typically, walls are vertical, right? So, but maybe they're just putting it in there to be complete. What you want to do is move to contact. Here, we haven't found a drag and drop way to do that quite yet, so we're going to have to execute some code. So we'll add a code block. It's kind of a cop-out. I kind of like using the drag and drop if I can. How to do this? I just want to edit the code. Here's our code. What do we want to do? Well, we'll say move to contact, and we say all objects. What's this one? Our direction is whatever direction we're moving already, and our maximum set to -1. What are we moving against? We're moving against probably object solid. Let me just make sure. No, this is all objects, so I don't think we need to specify an object. So any object, if we collide with it, probably it's going to be a solid thing. What we want to do is set the speed to 0. So this shuts off both the horizontal and vertical speed. We'll set that to 0. And then, since we're not moving, we have to set our state to z state cling. Okay. And that's pretty much it. Simple. So if you collide with something solid while you're climbing up and down the walls, you just stop. And then the last one, we go back to wall, and we add a step. I think it's just a regular step event. No, it's end step event. End step. What do we do? We look to see if there's not a wall in the direction we're facing. So how would you say that? So we could say place meeting again. For x, we're going to just say x, or I guess we're going to say facing. For y, we're going to say just y. I guess this has to be x plus facing, because we're going to make sure it's relative. And then, what are we checking for? Object wall. So this has to be part of an if statement. So you say if there is, well, we want to actually ask if there's not a wall there. So if there's not a wall there, we know that, well, we can't be in the wall state anymore because there's no wall in the direction we're facing, so we're going to have to switch ourselves over to Object Zool Air. So we do an instance change. And which object are we changing to? Object Zool Air. And performing events, yes, we'll do that. It's that second parameter. Now if we try this now, I don't think we've done the draw events yet. So it might stop and might cling there, but I'm not sure what sprite it's going to use. Let's find out. Already running. Sorry, clicked on it. Okay, so here I am. I jump on the wall, nothing happening yet. I expected to be something would change, but so far no changes in behavior. We did put this there. I was assuming it would stop. It doesn't seem to be doing that. Well, let's put in the drawing code and let's see if maybe that makes it work. We're in Object Zool now. Actually, let's go to Zool Land first. And what we want to do is in Object Zool Land, in the I think this is in the end step event. Yeah, end step. Here's our code. In the end step event, if we happen to be on a platform or not on a platform, then we change into Object Zool Air. But what if we're standing facing a wall? We probably want to cling to it. So we would say if place meeting, keep doing that. In this case, we're going to say x plus facing. Y would be just y. What are we looking for? Object wall. So we happen to be facing a wall. Then what do? Well, we probably want to switch to the cling state, or switch to the cling object, or the wall object, and then we'll figure out the cling part. So we do an instance change. And what are we changing into? Object Zool wall. And we do perform events on that one. I think that's just by default. Or doesn't like that. Why? Because I'm missing a parenthesis. Okay, so that state transition is there. Now we go back to Object Zool Air. And we also go to the end step event. I think this is why we're not transitioning. Object Zool Air, end step. Let's see if we're ever checking for. Yeah, we're just following. The question, where should we put this? Yeah, so I think it's right here. If our speed is greater than 0, that means we are in the, or speed is greater than 0, that, or v speed is greater than 0, that means we're falling. Yeah, so I'm a little confused here why it's inside this if statement. Yeah, I guess it's inside this. This is odd. I don't quite understand that. So, but let's try it. So down here at the bottom then, we're going to execute some code. And what we're trying to do is I would love to be able to figure this out. I know I've done it before. I just don't recall how to see it other than doing that. Yeah, frustrating. Okay, so we do a place meeting. Oh, consistent. What are we checking? Well, we're checking to see if there's a wall in front of us. So we would say let's see, what's the equation? Same thing as before, we say x plus facing. So, and then y, we're looking for object wall. We're in object Zool air. If there is a wall there, then, oh, this has to be an if statement. So we say if, in parentheses, place meeting. Then what we want to do is switch over to be an object Zool wall. So another instance change. So just like we did with land, we would say instance change. Which object Zool wall performing events. Okay, so let's see what happens here. All right, here we are. We jump into the wall. Notice how we disappear when we're on the wall there? It's because we haven't put it in our draw event. But what I'm puzzled about here, see right here, we're not clinging to the wall, nor are we clinging right there. Doesn't seem to be transitioning. So I've got to figure that out. But let's do the draw events first, just so that we can see. Here's object Zool in our draw event. And we have all this code, but we're not taking care of the cling and climb state. So let's do that here. I'm just going to add an else if to the right side. My hope is that we don't have that animation problem like we did with walk, but we'll have to see. Z state cling. Let's just do cling first. If we're clinging and we're facing to the right, it looks like, what do we do? Well, we want to draw the sprite, but we don't want to animate. Which sprite? Object Zool, I think it's climb. Climb right. It's climb even though we're clinging, but it's not animated, so we're just going to leave it on the first frame. And that will do that. But then the last thing I want to do here, I'll just copy this code. We do want to animate in the case that we're climbing, right? And here to do that, typically what you do is you pass in a -1, but again, that hasn't always worked for us. And I'm just going to copy these two chunks of code and put them at the bottom of left and just change the direction. So I'm going to just paste it right here, because we have to do the left side too. So here's left. Oops. Okay, and then This will be left as well. And we'll see what happens. Not super confident. Alright, so we see when we walk into the wall, we can actually climb, and the animation works. Which surprises me, because I don't understand why this one works and walk doesn't. Very puzzling. But the problem is, if we jump into the wall, notice how we're not clinging. So we have a problem, object Zool error. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on there. Replace meeting. So if VSpeed is greater than 0, that means we're falling. We should cling even if we're not falling. So this is where I'm a little confused here. Let me work on this. Yeah, so our mistake I think is right here. It's supposed to be object Zool wall, not object Zool. And we'll save that. Again, I'm a little puzzled by why. I think it wants to slide up the wall, but if we ever start sliding down, we want to cling to the wall. Maybe that's the deal. Yeah. As soon as we start to fall down the wall, then it starts to cling. So if I jump into the wall, I slide up it, but if I don't have enough momentum, I'll cling, and then I can climb up it. Okay, we have this problem here where we're kind of hanging in midair. We're going to fix that problem next, but that'll be in the next video. All right, cool.